Hello friends, welcome to Birens Academy. I am Pramila. Today we will start a new topic that is from Unit 4. The topic name is Fancy. As we have already covered the S.T. Coleridge, the theory of poetry or the definition of imagination. Okay. In that chapter, we have already discussed about what is imagination and fancy. As according to Coleridge, that is human mind has three faculties. Human mind has three faculties. What is that? That is primary imagination, secondary imagination, and fancy. Okay, that is three faculties, that is primary imagination, secondary imagination, and fancy. Today we will discuss about that fancy. To Coleridge, fancy is a mechanical process which receives the elementary image and without altering the parts resembles them into a different spatial and temporal order. The fancy is indeed no other than a mode of memory emancipated from the order of time and space. Fancy produce a lesser, higher or humorous kind of poetry. Here, according to Coleridge, fancy is a mechanical process. Okay. Fancy is a mechanical process which receives the elementary images. Okay, the images which are present in our brain or the past memories that is received in our elementary image, and without altering the part, without changing the past, it resembles them into a different spatial and temporal order. The fancy is indeed no other than a mode of memory. It is no other than a mode of memory. That is the past experience or the past thing which is present in our brain that we cannot alter it or we cannot fuse it. Okay. So, the presence of that old things or the past experience are the fancy. Okay. Fancy is indeed no other than a mode of memory emancipated from the order of time and space. It is no other than a mode of memory. Okay. And memory emancipated from the order of time and space. Fancy produce the lesser, higher or humorous kind of poetry. When the fancy is present in our brain, that fancy will produce the lesser, higher or humorous kind of poetry. Fancy is not a creative power at all. Okay. Fancy is not a creative power at all. देखो fancy गोटे creative power नुह, but imagination होची हमरो गोटे creative power. Fancy कोनो जहाँ भी present अच्छी हमरो past experience बा past thing सेटा को एक्जाक्टली सेम रिप्रेजेंट करिया होची हमर फैंसी. बट इमेजिनेशन कोन, इमेजिनेशन रे आमे किछि दिनस फ्यूज करछे, किछि दिनस ऐड करछे. ओके, करि सरला परे जो क्रिएशन टा होची सेटा होची हमर इमेजिनेशन. अंडरस्टूड? फैंसी इज द एब्सेंस ऑफ इमेजिनेशन. ओके, फैंसी, व्हाट इज फैंसी? फैंसी इज द एब्सेंस ऑफ इमेजिनेशन. बुझि पालो फैंसी माने कोन? सपोज भाव आम नेबा गोटे एग्जांपल फैंसी रो. सपोज जेमिति कि इन द लास्ट क्लास आई हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्कस्ड अबाउट द फैंसी एंड आई हैव टेकन द एग्जांपल ऑफ द टेबल. ओके, व्हेन सपोज अ चेयर इज मेड with a wooden suppose a wooden chair is there and it is made up of wood, that is cushion and some pin. Okay, everything is by taking the other things it is made, that means other elements. Okay, when the chair is made, that is we are calling it a chair. When we will break it, Okay, the part will be called as the same element which we have already taken for making the chair. Understood? So that part are cushion, the wood or the pins etc. Okay, that is fancy. देखो फॉर एग्जांपल सब भाव आम गोटे एग्जांपल नेबा चेयर जो टेबल जो चेयर रे किछि कुशन्स लागिछि सेटा वुडन चेयर आ तारे किछि कंटा बाड़े हेकि हेछि जत्ते बेले हमें सेही चेयर को भांगी दवा सेथिरे जो एलिमेंट्स गुडाक अछि जेमिति कि तार कुशन तापर वुड ता पिन सेठारे किछि भी चेंजेस होबनी बट आमे ताको किछि अलगा ना दे परिबानी. ओके, जहाँ भी एलिमेंट से ऐड होता से एलिमेंट जाक आम पाई जाऊे ताहा होची हमर फैंसी. इमेजिनेशंस कौन जो गोटे जिनस जो थे आम कि फ्यूजन कलापर जो चेंजेस हम आम बैक को से जिनस नहीं कि आनीपर ना से एलिमेंट्स को नहीं कि आसीपर ना जमती कि फॉर एग्जांपल दैट इज ऑरेंज जूस. ओके, ऑरेंज जूस ना ये जिते बड़े आम गोटे ऑरेंज जूस बनाऊे से ऑरेंज बा सुगर ये सब जिन ऐड होची ऐड होके जिते से गोटे जूसटा हो जाऊँगी सपोज आम से ऑरेंज जूस को पुणी थे ऑरेंज सुगर करें कि ना दैट इज इमेजिनेशन. ओके, इमेजिनेशन सेमिति हिसाब रे काम करे. फैंसीटा कौन जो सिम्बल्स गुड़ाक आम यूज करचे से सिम्बल्स एक्जाक्टली जहाँ अच्छी सेटा ही रही है दैट इज नोन एज fancy. I hope you understood the concept of fancy. Okay, and it is the absence of imagination. Fancy is the absence of imagination, and we will find this concept fancy from the S.T. Collier's Biographia Literaria. Okay, S.T. Collier's Biographia Literaria, we will find the concept of fancy. Thank you for the class.